Essentially, I test my luck and I do not cover my garden. I'm still not gonna spray anything. Oh my God, a hummingbird! They didn't do well, but I really do like nasturtiums. I am stepping on an in-ground garden bed. Broke! If you watching, what is this? Hello, welcome to Yellow Door Urban Homestead. I am Asia and I'm an urban gardener growing in a small space out in my backyard. And today I figured I'd take you on a garden tour of my urban backyard garden. I like to call it a homestead, but we're going to focus on the garden today. I do have chickens. They're back there, pretty excited to be here. I'm excited to have them here, but we're not really going to talk about them today. I do have 6 chickens. I also have 3 quail that stay outside. I use them for eggs, and I literally just hatched, like 2 weeks ago maybe, a new set of quail, and they are inside. We hatched out 9. We now have 8. So for me, that is a great survival rate. I'll be doing some videos on quail and on chickens in the future, but today we're going to talk about my garden. If you are new here, you won't know that I struggled with my fall garden. I finally now have it back on track. I've showed the struggle, but now I want to show you how it has bounced back. I want to show you what it's producing, because we have a lot of things that are producing right now. Well, we have quite a few things that are producing. I don't want to say a lot. If you're new here, I am in Virginia. I garden in zone 7B, so we can garden basically all year long. For the most part, our coldest months are January and February, but my garden still makes it through January and February, most times uncovered, unless we have a very cold snap that is not normal for our area. When I originally started gardening and I was gardening in fall, I absolutely was covering, but now I have infrastructure. So I also grow up, and so I grow on cattle panel trellises, and I don't like taking those down every year. So essentially, I test my luck and I do not cover my garden. You absolutely can cover your garden in the winter. I used to use PVC pipes, and I would stick a metal pipe down into the ground, put the PVC pipe across the bed and onto the metal post, and cover it with 100 mil. I'm pretty sure it's 100 mil plastic. I still have all of those things, but I do not cover. I just don't. But here, I grow in 7-gallon grow bags. Those are always linked below. I get that question a lot. What size grow bags do I grow in? All of my grow bags are 7 gallons, and they are linked below. Pretty much anything that I can grow in the ground, I will attempt to grow in bags. Right now, we have broccoli and cabbage in our bags. We also have carrots in our bags. We have some volunteer potatoes that have come up in the bags as well. Our peppers are still in bags because, yes, we still have peppers growing right now. The poblano pepper plant is going crazy. And I got almost no peppers from that poblano pepper in the summer, and now it is going crazy. We still have cayenne peppers growing. We still have shishito peppers growing. So the peppers are still growing, but that's about it from the summer garden because we switched over to fall. The other way that I grow here is in raised beds. So I have the metal raised beds from Vego. I also have just some block beds. I got those blocks from off of Facebook Marketplace for free. I also grow in no dig, and I also grow in ground. So no dig is somewhat in ground, but you're putting a new layer of compost every year or every so often. In ground is you are actually planting in the native soil, and you may put some soil amendments in, but that is in ground. So the difference between in ground and no dig: in ground you're planting directly into the native soil. No dig, you're covering it with cardboard, putting some compost on it, and then planting into it. So that's the difference, and I grow in both ways. Well, in all of those ways. So I have been gardening since 2020. I started out with 1 raised bed, 1 raised block bed, and it has grown into what it is now, which is mostly half of my backyard is a garden. There are also 2 greenhouses in my backyard. They both stay up all year long. So there's one that's more like a tunnel. So that's the larger one I have. And then I have a smaller one that's just like a square-shaped greenhouse. I use the square-shaped one to keep things dry. I don't really grow anything in it. And And just this year, I started to grow in the tunnel bed. So there are 2 raised beds in there, and they are actually from Vevor. I also have 2 worm bins in there. Those are new. Just last week, I finished setting those up, and I added all of the layers to that, so I'm really excited about that. I have moringa trees, and I have moved them into the greenhouse at this point, and I also had a lemongrass plant that I have moved into the greenhouse. I am hopeful to overwinter both of those things. I have gotten the question of what does overwintering mean. Overwintering just means keeping a plant alive over winter, and for the most part you're keeping the roots alive. I'm going to show you because I'm also overwintering peppers. We're going to talk about that this week as well. So I've already started to overwinter some of the peppers, and they are also in the greenhouse. We'll talk about that when we go to see the greenhouse, but I think I have talked enough. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, and I will attempt to make sure that I get to your comments. It's one of the things that I'm working on over here, if you are new, is making sure that I get to all of my comments. I have this channel and I have another channel. My other channel is called Essentially Asia. You people have asked about that, so I figured I would go ahead and put that out there. It is linked. I'm sure it's in the bio. I believe it's also in the description, so if you are interested, please feel free to come and visit me over there. I just dropped a new video today in case you're interested. But at this point, let's go ahead and get into the garden tour. I'm going to take you through every bed that I have today. I am going to tell you what is growing in it. Also, one of the things that people want to know sometimes when they come to gardening channels is how do you fertilize? This year, I switched over to using granulated fertilizer. That's the Espoma garden tone that I use. And then the only other thing that I am using at this point is comfrey tea and weed tea. And so I grow the comfrey here in my yard. Also, weeds grow here in my yard. So I just make that fertilizer, and that's what I'm using to fertilize right now. I cannot wait to see how that works in the summer. It has helped my fall garden bounce back in a tremendous way. And so I am a believer in comfrey tea now, and also weed tea. So, all right, let's get started. Let's get into this garden tour, y'all. All right, so let's get started. Behind me, you will notice that my asparagus is still here and has not been cut down. If you are not new here, you know that the asparagus ferns get wild, and I am ready to cut them just as soon as I can. But this year, I wanted to make sure I just waited. I want everything to die, and then I want to cut them. That is my personal preference. As I understand it, the roots, the crowns, draw their strength from the sun hitting the green, and so until all of this green dies, I'm leaving it up. But for anyone who has not grown a garden before and is not aware, asparagus, if they are not picked, turn into these little ferns. Actually, when you first start an asparagus plant, this is exactly what it looks like. A little tiny fern. If you started from seed, that's what it looks like. Once it is established, if a spear grows and you do not pick it, this is what it turns into. And then once you don't pick it and the season goes on, it turns into this. And at this point, once this whole bed turns into that, I'm going to cut it down. I personally leave my ferns on the bed. So the dried out ferns, I leave them on the bed all over the winter. I give it some compost, and then next spring it is always grown. I have heard that if you do that, sometimes you can leave insects and pests in the bed. But here's the thing for me. Insects, pests, and disease, I believe. If it were diseased, mine was not diseased. Also, here's the thing with me. If you're not new here, you know that pests, I do not fight them. I pick them. I do not spray them. Personal choice, I do not spray. I don't spray anything. I don't spray garlic. I don't put down baking soda. I don't do any of that over here. That is not a thing for me. I am very much interested in allowing my garden's ecosystem to take care of my garden, and it has proven to be effective. And so for me, I'm just not going to spray. Whether it's organic, whether it's natural, I'm just not going to spray it. I'm going to let my ecosystem work for me. But I am going to pick them if I see them. So I had an issue this year with harlequin bugs, which I had never had before. I am still seeing them. them every now and then, nowhere near as much as I was seeing them in the summer, because I tried to grow brassicas in the summer. I didn't try to grow a bunch of them. I tried to grow some tree collards in the summer, and that did not work out. That's where I think I ended up with harlequin bugs. I'm still not going to spray anything. So right beside the asparagus that we just talked about, we have a block bed, and this bed is housing quite a few brassicas. It's also housing leeks. And so in the holes of the bricks, there are garlic cloves, because I'm hoping to also grow more garlic than I normally do. But let's talk about what's in this bed. These are leeks. These leeks have actually been here since the spring. And so they are finally starting to kind of bulk up. And that is what I'm hoping for, because I love a good leek and potato soup. Can you see it? Finally starting to bulk up. I'm finally starting to get a lot of leaves. And I am contributing that to starting to fertilize with the comfrey tea the way that I should have been. These have been in, like I said, since spring, and I did not have a lot of growth. I have recently started to fertilize every week with comfrey tea. That is what I'm doing. I'm doing a half a cup, I believe, of comfrey tea to 2 gallons of water, and it has been working. Beside the leeks, we now have kohlrabi, and I love kohlrabi. It is probably my favorite fall vegetable. So you can see one there, we have one there, and one right here. And then we have a few little snapdragon plants, and these snapdragons actually have been in since the spring. But the thing is, they will stop growing in the summer, and then this is kind of what you're left with. But once it cools down, you'll end up with this. New. So we got new and we got old. Snapdragons actually like cooler weather. So I've said this before, if you plant them in the spring, they will make it through the summer. The roots won't die. And so that's why I don't pull them all the time. I normally pull the ones that are in the flower bed because I have other flowers that I want to put in there. But snapdragons can essentially make it through a whole entire year once you plant them in the spring. And then, true story, these will more than likely make it through the winter and then be blooming in spring as well. So in my area, so I'm in, like I said, zone 7B. So, you know, give snapdragons a try. They're a beautiful flower. Right behind these leeks, the kohlrabi and the snapdragons, you have broccoli. And these broccoli were eaten up. I mean, they were tore up, but they are looking amazing. They are now starting to head up, and I'm just very excited about it. And I didn't spray anything on them. By the time I got out here and started taking care of my garden, they were tattered and torn. But once I got them stable again, went ahead, pulled off all of the old leaves that were tore up, turned yellow, and now those cabbages are heading up for me, and I do believe that I'm going to be eating cabbages, maybe early spring, but I do believe that I'm going to be eating cabbage. Right behind the cabbages are a nasturtium plant. Is a nasturtium plant. What in the world did I just say, y'all? It's a nasturtium, and we do have some flowers on it. This one has already bloomed and died, but I just think nasturtiums are such beautiful flowers. And if I'm honest, I think the plant is like a really cool looking plant too. Whole thing is edible. Seeds are edible, leaves are edible, and the flower is edible. I like to grow edible flowers. I think it's cool that I could come outside and just eat a flower. So nasturtiums are a little bit spicy, but I like them. I really do. So give nasturtiums a try too. Right behind that nasturtium, y'all, we have broccoli. We have broccoli heads right here, and they are looking really good. I'm very excited about the broccoli. If you remember, I said I wanted to grow a whole bunch of broccoli. Broccoli, me and my children love broccoli. And so I'm happy to see those broccoli heads sprouting. Thing is, we have broccoli heads appearing everywhere right now. I cannot wait to show y'all. But the broccoli is doing amazingly. This little area, so we have a nasturtium that doesn't look that good. I believe this is an onion that I did not like harvest, so we're just letting that grow. It's just randomly growing right there. It's either an onion or a leek. It may be a leek. honestly. But this little section are things that I planted, not that. But these two plants, I believe, are kohlrabi, and I think that might be a cabbage. But we planted them out much later than everything else that you see growing in this bed, and they've kind of had an issue getting started. Now, what I do believe is if they can make it through the winter, that they're then going to produce for me in the spring. And so that's why I'm not pulling those. I'm not worried about it, because I do think if I don't get anything in the fall, then I think I'll get it in the spring, which works for me. Behind this little group, you have Brussels sprouts, and the Brussels sprouts are looking good. Now, they had a hard start, and so I'm not sure that I'm going to actually get any Brussels sprouts off of them, but Brussels sprout leaves are edible. So if I don't get actual Brussels sprouts, I can absolutely eat those Brussels sprout leaves. I have never tried them before, but I am willing to give them a try this year, because I honestly don't think I'm gonna get any Brussels sprouts, but you know, stranger things have happened, who knows? Behind the Brussels sprouts, so these are the two Brussels sprouts I showed you, still in the same bed, we have some tree collards. And so these tree collards were planted in spring. I ended up cutting them down because they were starting to rot, but the only thing I left was this stem. And now this is what we're getting. And essentially what it looks like is it's growing a whole other plant. And so with that being said, I feel like I could take this off and root it, and I would have a whole other plant. But I haven't done that, and I may not. But all of this is still edible, and so I still got something off of leaving those shoots. Now this is a different variety here, but it's still a tree collard, which I think is just really cool that you can leave the stem, because this is literally all I left, and these things started growing out of it. Now it is possible that I'm interested. I may like pull these off, the two larger ones, and see if I can go ahead and grow plants again. Who knows? In between those are two kohlrabi. They are just like the things that are in that little space up here, planted later, so they're taking a minute to get started. And then we have another snapdragon back here that was planted in spring, and we are starting to get the new leaves and starting to get some buds off of them. And then just kind of staying with this space, we still have pepper plants back here in some bags. Like I said, 7-gallon bags. This is a shishito, and we still have some shishito peppers on it, which I didn't realize, because if I had, I'd have ate them by now. What was in this bag, I have overwintered already. Then over here, we have Alasia. So we're really just waiting on these things to ripen. So, but they're still growing, so that's the crazy part about it. And then this is the poblano. Now they look a little deformed. They for sure look deformed, but they are still growing. And this plant itself, look at this. All the leaves on this stem is gone, but the plant is still attempting to grow peppers. So, and right beside that is a Jimmy Nardello, and that's also still attempting to grow peppers. So this is the reason why I really don't want to start to take them out to overwinter them yet, because pretty much all of these pepper plants that are still out here are still producing. Maybe it's just me trying to be greedy, I don't know. And I'm gonna end up having myself out here in the cold overwintering these peppers, because I'm gonna wait till the last minute and our frost is gonna come, and then it's gonna end up being cold. But it appears that it's something that I'm willing to do. It's a risk I'm willing to take. So now we have moved on. We have gone through this whole bed, and I think I said it, but if I didn't, there's garlic in the holes of all of these bricks, except for the back side of that. But there's garlic. I'm hopeful to grow a good amount of garlic this year. But onto this bed. This is the next block bed. This is the first bed I ever had, and it was actually smaller. I extended it when I decided I really wanted to be a gardener. We have another snapdragon. This is a snapdragon from the spring as well. Any snapdragons that you're gonna see in the garden bed, they're from spring, so that's pretty cool. In the front, we have pak choi, and if you've been here for a while, do you remember what these pak choi were looking like? This one is beautiful now. I mean, it's just beautiful. This one is bouncing back. We still have a little bit of purple on that. Now this one, baby, This is for the streets. I don't know what then went on with this one. But like I said, the pak choi actually had the larger caterpillars on it. It wasn't just the little green moths. They had actual caterpillars on it. So I am surprised that we have anything, like the big furry ones. So I'm surprised we have anything. But they're looking absolutely beautiful, except for that one I just showed you. Here's the other one, and that one looks really good too. So if you look up the pak choi row, you have one that looks awful. So my sister will be excited because I grew these for my sister. So behind it, we have a few leeks. These are leeks that I planted in the spring, and they just kind of stayed here. Now this one, it looks real good. I definitely think that we're gonna have some leek and potato soup soon. This is a cabbage that I planted later at the same time as those kohlrabi, so it's not doing much right now. And then right here we have some more cabbage. Now that bed gets the most sun of all the beds in the fall, and so I can understand why those plants look bigger and look more mature than the ones that we're seeing down here in this bed, because this bed has a little bit of shade, which you know, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. So behind these leeks and the cabbage that I just showed you, we have Swiss chard, and then these are kohlrabi, and then there's another Swiss chard down here. Now this kohlrabi is ready to go. I'm pretty sure it's ready to go, and I need to pick it, harvest it, because I don't want it to split. I had one split earlier this week, and I was like, man, you weren't even that big. Why did you split? But it did split, and we did get 2 days of rain, so it kind of makes sense. But that kohlrabi will be getting harvested this week, along with the one over there, because they are both pretty big, and I'm gonna make some kohlrabi fries. That's gonna be my first thing I make with my kohlrabi, but I am gonna look for different recipes this year, because I've only ever eaten it as a kohlrabi fry. Now, y'all, to the exciting part. This is a broccoli, which this one kind of withstood all of the stuff that was going on. But if y'all remember this one right here, it was a twig. Y'all look, there is a whole broccoli head forming on this tiny little plant that went through so much. I'm excited about that. And the same for this one over here. This one did not have to fight as much as this one, but it is that I'm gonna get broccoli off of all of these plants. So how exciting is that? Now the crazy part, that's still not all the broccoli that's forming heads right now. Are y'all just as excited as me? I'm excited. Right behind these broccoli plants, we have kale. And I showed y'all this kale not too long ago right here. But I just want y'all to see just how well the garden is finally doing. It has cooled off a little bit. Y'all remember this one was a twig? It's coming. It's coming. So this is a purple variety. This is a curl kale. So right down the row, curl kale. This is the purple variety. I'm not sure which one it was, but it is supposed to be purple. Behind that is some Swiss chard that got planted a little bit later. But the thing with Swiss chard is it can grow through our winters here, but then it'll still grow through the spring. More than likely we'll go to seed once the summer gets here. I'm cool with that, even if it's not producing right now. And the last thing I want to show y'all, I think these may be my absolute favorite snapdragons. So like I said, from spring, but I think they may be my most absolute favorite. They are beautiful. It is giving like sunset. It's giving summer, and I need some summer in my life because I'm not a great fan of the winter. I'm not a great fan of the fall either, if I'm honest. All right, so right behind this bed we have more peppers that are in bags. And so right here is another shishito pepper that is still throwing out shishitos. Now that plant look absolutely terrible, y'all, but it's still throwing out peppers for me. And then we have an empty bag because we went ahead and overwintered this pepper. I am leaving this one only because I don't know what it is. It has some flowers, so like down here you can see flowers, and we also have some peppers that's trying to grow. So I'm leaving it because I don't know where the tag went. All of these peppers were tagged. I don't know where the tag went because I want to know what it is for when I overwinter it. But right now, It's a net. Right now, I do not know. And so with that being said, I'm leaving that one, not because it's producing, but because I want to know what it is. And the habaneras are finally starting to produce. I don't know that I got that many habaneras this year, but they are finally starting to produce. So that's another reason why I'm leaving the pepper plants, because if we're honest, I didn't get a lot of peppers this year, mostly because I wasn't paying attention to my garden. And so if I can get a little bit of a rebound right now, I'm cool with that, which is why I'm kind of leaving them. And beside that habanera plant, we have some golden marconis, and they're also still producing, so we're gonna leave them. Now, if we were to get a frost soon, I would pull all of those peppers, even while they're green, because they will ripen in the house. Will they taste the same? Maybe not, but they will ripen in the house, and that is what I will do. But right now, I'm trying to let nature ripen them. The last thing in this bed is on this cattle panel. We have peas with lots and lots of flowers and lots of peas. So excited about that. Like this one, I probably could harvest and eat it fresh. When I say fresh, as like a garden snack, because there aren't enough to like cook them or anything. And like I said in another video, there are 2 varieties on this trellis. It's probably actually 3. This seems to be a shorter variety because it is flowering. It's just much shorter than the variety that it is beside, which does not matter to me as long as it's giving me peas. I will go back to C though, because I wouldn't need to put it on a trellis this big, and it may be like a miniature variety. I'm really not sure, but I will go back and check to see, so that I know next year I really don't have to plant it on a trellis per se. It could just kind of go in the garden, and it could just kind of lay out, honestly. And then of course in the brick holes here, except for the back, we have garlic in all of those brick holes too. All right, next garden bed is a no dig, which we have broccoli in. These have not started to give me broccoli heads. So there's a broccoli here, and a broccoli here. Haven't started to give heads, and then all around it is Swiss chard. If you come on this side, you have 3 cabbages, 3 lacinato kale, and then we have some more nasturtium. I've said it before, this garden bed is the shadiest of them all, but I grew broccoli in this bed last year. Thing is, the broccoli matured much later, so I don't think I got that broccoli until the spring of 2024. I planted it in late summer of 2023. But I didn't get my harvest until 24, which was fine by me. The other thing that's back here are Brussels sprouts. And so this was probably not my best place to plant them because of the shade and because of how long it takes them to grow. But we'll see what happens. We will absolutely just see what happens. And so I think this bed is finally starting to fill out for me. I think it's actually really pretty. I think it's pretty because it has like different textures and different things in it, and it's kind of mixed. But that's the gardener in me that thinks that the green plants, they are all green, is pretty. But I really do think that it is a beautiful garden bed. And then all the way at the back are my roselle, and they are looking good aside from a little bit of what I'm sure is a disease on the leaves. It's not every leaf. Someone left me a comment twice, I believe, about using the leaves from the roselle. I have seen your comment, and I think you said James Prigioni said that you could use them. I just would like to do research on that, but I have seen your comment. I will do research. Oh my God, a hummingbird! And that is one of the reasons why I did not take out that pineapple sage. I absolutely love seeing hummingbirds, and I love seeing bees in my garden. So, squirrel. But back to what I was saying. I will research that. I appreciate the comment. I really do. But I'm going to research it, and then, you know, if I feel like it's something for me, then I will absolutely use them, and I appreciate that. Right beside this bed, so giving you some context. You come into the garden, you have the asparagus, you have the first bed we talked about, you have the second bed that we talked about, and then you have the third bed we talked about. Right beside that bed, you have a Vego garden bed. I am affiliated, and I think they're doing a Black Friday sale. If they are, I will put it on the screen and down in the comments. But we now have broccoli over here. These were all planted out a little bit later. There's also calendula in here. I'm just kind of leaving it. I planted them in the fall, I think, early fall. And we have the plants, but they're not getting that big. And then we also have some Swiss chard. So these broccoli aren't producing anything yet, but they look amazing, and that's what I care about, because if they get established before it gets too cold, then they can make it through the winter here unless we have a really cold snap. I am happy with the way that those are looking. I really am, and I think that they will make it through our winter. So if they do, we will have more broccoli, and I will be very excited about that. And so just to point out, everything is mulched at this point. So this bed was mulched with dry grass. I believe this bed was also mulched with dry grass. This was mulched with chicken bedding. And I believe this one, the furthest one over, was mulched with grass. And so I am a believer in mulch. When I first started gardening, I always mulched. After a while, I kind of got out of it. This year, when I was trying to help my plants, I was like, we're going back to mulch, because mulch is going to hold in the moisture for me. When it gets cold, it's going to keep the soil a little bit warmer, and it's vice versa in the summer. When it's hot outside, it's going to keep the soil cooler. So I am a believer in mulch, and I will use dry grass. I will use the chicken bedding. I will use straw. Yeah, I will use pretty much anything that is a organic material to put it back on top of the beds to protect my soil. So right beside the Vego garden bed, we have a no-dig bed right here, and it is housing cabbages. These are cabbages that my chickens ended up getting to, so that's why they look like that. And on the back end of this bed, it just gets way too much shade in the fall, so I did not plant anything. I just kind of put it to sleep. And with putting it to sleep, I had more roselle growing over here. I threw roselle on it, I threw wood chips on it, and that's how I put it to sleep. And then in the summer, we will plant in it again. That bed also stays really moist, and so I'm gonna try to find a plant that really likes moisture. My battery went dead, so I need to find a plant that likes moisture, because that bed stays moist in the summer because it has a bunch of shade. Anywho, right beside that bed, you also have a blueberry bush. This is one of my oldest blueberry bushes. It produces pretty well, but right now, of course, we're in fall, so we have the leaves falling off, but it's a beautiful bush. It's an absolute beautiful bush in the summer. So we're gonna go back up the garden so we can kind of stay in order for if you were to walk in my garden, what you would see. If you were to walk in my garden, you would see all of these 7-gallon grow bags that are growing beautiful, beautiful broccoli plants. For the most part, up here, we're growing beautiful broccoli plants. Oh, and we got a volunteer potato, which we're just gonna leave until it dies back. And then we have broccoli plants here. They aren't producing broccoli yet. And then once you get down a little bit further, you're gonna see that we're also growing cabbages in this bag, in these bags. Now, this one is the one we pulled out of the bed, and it's growing nicely. Well, it's getting established nicely. Now, the only thing that's not a cabbage or a broccoli is this. This is a cauliflower. Somehow, I made that mistake, but it's okay. And then on this side, you have a broccoli plant, but there are a few beet plants in there. I don't grow beets well. You have more broccoli, and then you get down here to our carrots. And I did harvest this. This had some volunteer potatoes. They were pretty small, so I just left them. And then in the spring, when the weather is right, they will just start to grow. And then I'll have potatoes that'll start pretty early in the spring. So I didn't take them in the house or anything. They were really small. So now that we've seen it from that end, now we're back at the front, and there's another block bed right here. So you have the 2 beds, you have the bags, and then you have another block bed. This is a Vego pot with a trellis. I'm gonna grow a tomato in this next year. Now that I have found the spout for drainage. Y'all don't talk about me too much. All right, let's talk about this bed. Okay, so in this bed, we still have the basil, which I'm essentially leaving for the bees. I initially was leaving it for seeds, and then when I realized just how small they were, I was like, I'm not dealing with this. They will fall into this bed, and I will get some volunteers. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. So I'm just gonna leave it until the frost kills it. I'm gonna leave it. As you can see, we still have a few bees out here, and so I'm leaving it so that they can still have some food. At the bottom of this bed though, we have some kale, and that's starting to look pretty good. That's a broccoli plant that we're still leaving just out of hope. But look, y'all see it? And then right beside it, that one is probably about to open too. Down here we have another one. Those are all broccoli plants. And right up under this, we have some more nasturtiums. I told you I really like nasturtiums. They didn't do well, but I really do like nasturtiums. Some of the radishes that we planted are also trying to grow, so I'm just leaving them. It looks like it's more of the big white ones, which is cool because that's probably what we needed. The little red ones and things, they didn't make it through. And at the end of this bed, there is kohlrabi. So these are two kohlrabi. We had one back here, but that's the one I told you split. I don't know what happened with it. So this end of the bed is looking a little bare. But like I said, some of the radishes, that one looks pretty leggy. Probably not going to get a radish from it, but that's fine. So that bed is looking a little bit bare. It is not doing as well as the other two beds, but I'm okay with that. Oh, there was some little spinach plants in here. They aren't doing really well. Probably can't even see them, but I'll show you just because they in here. There they go. And then there's one right there. And I know spinach likes cold weather, so I'm just leaving them because I'm like, maybe they're stunted and they just need a little bit more cool weather. So absolutely going to leave those. So in front of this bed are the rest of the blueberry bushes. And so these are all blueberry bushes. Probably have had them for about 2 years, maybe 3 years now. And they are all in ground. I grow all of my blueberry bushes in ground. They do really well. I fertilize them a little bit differently from the rest of the things in the garden because they like acidic soil. People have asked me about that. I use Hollytone. And when I originally started out, I used coffee grinds from Starbucks. And so they just like acidic soil, and that's what I did. And it worked out. I am stepping on an in-ground garden bed, which people tell me all the time, you should not step on your garden beds. I know, but I have a vole or mole. And so there are times when it pushes the soil up. And so if I don't step on it, then the roots of my plant are not making contact with the soil as they should. So I do step on my garden beds, but I step on my garden beds for a good reason. Everybody's garden is different. And just because something didn't work for one person does not mean that it won't work for you. And just because it worked for you doesn't mean it's going to work for someone else. Just because it's not what the garden books say, just because an expert said don't, it doesn't mean that there isn't some situation in another person's garden that would make them not do or do what you think they shouldn't or should. So anyway, right beside this bed, we have some more cauliflower, and it is in a no-dig bed over here beside the trellis, and it's looking pretty good if I'm honest. But also, if I'm honest, I don't pay no mind to it because I'm not good at growing cauliflower. So with that being said, I just let it do what it do, and if I'm lucky, it's gonna grow cauliflower this year without my help because I fertilize it when I fertilize everything else, but outside of that, I don't pay no mind to that cauliflower. Okay, so this is the bed I just showed you, and you have the blueberries here. So we have another bed. This is the one that I was just stepping on, and it has broccoli in it. So these both were broccoli plants that got pretty eaten up. Broccoli leaves are edible. And so if I don't get a broccoli head off of those, if the leaves start to grow really nice, they're still food. Now, I've said it before, I'm not a big fan of them. Someone told me to mix them with collards, so I'll give that a try because I'm not a big fan of them. They taste very strong to me. Oh, the other thing with this bed is after the pest, then those little things got out. And so we have kohlrabi here. This is a kohlrabi that they got too, but we got some new leaves coming. I don't know what's going to be the ending of that. And then we have more kohlrabi there. This is one of the purple kale, and I think they pretty much ate the purple kale down. And this is a cabbage, and then we have another beautiful nasturtium, and one right here too. Oh, and we have another one. I grow all different varieties because I like the color. I think the flowers are beautiful. I think the plants are beautiful. So I grow different varieties, and they're all edible. So right behind the bed we just talked about is the strawberry bed. Just what, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, we cleared this bed out. We then put plastic down, and we kept, I want to say 15 plants. That number just kept growing. But strawberry plants, they throw out runners so bad, and not in a bad way. I mean, it's a good thing, but they throw them out a lot. And so with that being said, that entire space was full of strawberries. I was surprised that I was getting any strawberry production because it was so many plants in that bed. And so like I said, about 3 weeks ago, cleared it out, got all of the plants, put down the plastic, because my thought on that was if I put down the plastic, then the runners can't root, which is probably not 100% true, because landscape fabric does have like little holes in it. So they may still root, but I think it'll be much easier for me to stay on top of it because they won't be rooting so hard. If that makes any sense what I just said. Okay, so right beside both of those beds, you have some empty bags, which Mother Nature has started to cover, but I'm going to cover them with leaves to take care of the soil. I don't wash my bags. Look at that. I don't wash them. They just stay out here pretty much in the same spot, and I amend the soil in the bags when it's time to plant again. Right behind those bags is another Vego garden bed. This is the beautiful pineapple sage that we just saw the hummingbird on, and I have harvested this a lot, and it's still growing. And then right in front of this, I planted something in, I planted some garlic in here just to see what happened, and then I covered it with leaves. There were extra small ones. I just put them in there. And then we have some comfrey. This is the one comfrey that I have in a pot, and I need to get it into the ground, but I do still use it. On the other side of this Vego garden bed, we have the mint plants. They look terrible, right? They look like they are gone. They're not gonna come back. That is not true. Mint is always going to come back for the most part, and mint also will spread, which is why it's in pots. But that mint looks horrible, but it's going to be just fine. So now, giving you a little bit of perception, you have that Vego garden bed, you have the bags, the two beds that we just talked about. Then you have the blueberry bushes and the bed in the middle. So in front of this and beside this, we have more pepper plants. So in case you're wondering why these T-posts are here, in the summer I also grow my tomatoes in bags, and I use the Florida weave system, and so that's why they're there. This infrastructure, all the infrastructure you're seeing in this garden, it does not come down. I do not take it down. It's extra work for me to do in the summer, and I just don't want to. But the pepper plants are doing amazing over here too. We have this one, which is, I believe, a Jimmy Nardello, and there are so many on here that I'm waiting to ripen. A lot of them. And we have a whole bunch of cayenne peppers that we're waiting to ripen. Now this one is a jalapeno. There are small jalapenos growing on it. This is one that I would go ahead and overwinter. I just haven't gotten to it yet. This is the cayenne pepper. Down here is a shishito pepper. That is also a candidate to go ahead and overwinter now. Beside this, we have some more cayennes. And there's a lot of them there. Another shishito plant back here, and it's got flowers all over it, y'all. These plants do not want to stop, which is also what's keeping me from doing the overwintering that I need to do. It's not keeping me. I am choosing not to do it. We have another shishito pepper down here, plant down here, and this is another Jimmy Nardello that is ripening, and I probably could come and take them. And then this is a purple variety. I cannot remember the name, but this one actually would be a candidate to go ahead and start overwintering because it has flowers, but it doesn't have any peppers on it, and the chances of that pepper ripening before our frost is probably slim to none. And then we have this one, which I'm pretty sure is a banana pepper. I don't know what that is. Maybe we had a frost, a slight frost, I don't know. Anyway, this is a banana pepper, and look, it's growing another pepper down out of the bottom of it, and it's shooting off, trying to shoot off peppers. So those are the peppers that are left over here. Now, I do have this soil here because we will be starting to overwinter them. This is a raised bed and potting mix, so I think it's fine to go in the pots for overwintering. I hope that I am right because I've already started. All right, and so beside those peppers that we have left, we have another garden bed, and these are the collards. Also went through a patch of fighting, but they are coming on back too. And true story, I could start to harvest in a cut and come again style. So basically I could take this one, this one, this one, this one, leave these few in the middle, and then that plant would keep growing. And then at the end of this bed, there's a cabbage. So we're still watching it, but it's heading. This one had a little bit of issues too, but it's heading. And then we have this one little snapdragon. And I do believe that snapdragon came from the spring as well. Okay, right above this is a trellis. It was a trellis that should have been trellising vegetables, but as you can see, which you really can't see it that good right now, the grapevine took over this trellis. I grow muscadine grapes. That grapevine is everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. I'm giving it these two trellises this summer. I've let it have this trellis already. I do not know where else it's going to go. I am probably going to start cutting it back a little bit. The thing is, right now I have praying mantis sacks on it, and so I do not want to cut it because I do not want to make a mistake and knock them off. But let me show you those. Right here, praying mantis sacks. And then I found another one the other day. I don't think y'all can see it, but that's one too. So I don't want to knock those off. I also don't want to end up knocking one off or cutting one off that I didn't notice. So that grapevine will stay right where it's at until I am sure that the praying mantises have hatched. They are out here and ready to help my garden next year. All right, giving you more context. This is when you first come into the garden. This is the bed I just showed you. This is the grapevine. And right beside this bed, this is where you would enter my orchard. But before we do that, we have some lemon balm over here that we cut back together, and it is actually time for me to go ahead and harvest that again. We also have some perennial plants here. These are daisies, and they come back every year, literally every year, and they're huge. So that's what's back here. Reasoning why I haven't done anything with this, those are spider sacks. And so I do pay a lot of attention to the things that are like old and still out here. If you see something that's old and you think it needs to be cut, there's probably some type of wildlife that is benefiting from it, and that is why I have not cut it or taken it down yet, just so you know. Over here we have pots. This is feverfew. Also perennial, will come back every year. This is also a feverfew. They've both been in these pots, and this one is flowering again, which I don't know that I've seen that before. Back here is a marshmallow that we moved not too long ago. In the middle of this is some anise hyssop, but it's pretty much gone for the year. And there are weeds growing out of the pot, and also a little bit of hyssop leaves, but that stuff is going to die. It's just that we've been so warm that some of these plants are starting to try to grow again. Our first frost should have been November the 1st, and we have not had it yet. So I'm not excited to see these things growing again because I know eventually they are going to die until next spring. The other thing is we have roses that I absolutely need to cut. They are very tall and not bushy like I would like them to be, but it's okay. And those roses are in ground. So now you will go into the orchard area, which we rarely get to do because in the summer it is a big bushy mess over here, and I only come over here to harvest herbs and things. Right now we can walk through here. So if y'all remember, we had pulled a piece of the pineapple sage out and planted it over here. Pretty sure, well no, it's not. So I just pulled a piece off. It's not dead, But it absolutely looks that way. But it is still green in the inside, so it's not dead. My whole thought with that is I'll put this in the ground now, and then in spring it'll start to grow. I still hope for that, but if not, that whole pineapple sage over there, I can still you know, do it. Kind of forgot it was over here, if I'm honest, so I did not keep it watered like I should have, but it's not dead, so we in there. Beside that pineapple sage, my fig tree broke. If you watching, what is this? I feel like it's because it's cold, but I don't know. Broke or anybody. Somebody tell me what this is, because I do not want to lose this fig. But it looks amazing. If y'all remember from when I put it in, that fig looks amazing. Right here, there should be an oregano bush next year. It was so weedy over here that I had to pull the oregano and the weeds all at once, and then I put down wood chips. Oregano is a part of the mint family though, so I think it's gonna come back. We will see. The comfrey has pretty much gotten small. That's gonna die back in the winter, but it'll come back. That's another thing that will spread. And then there's a sage bush or plant right here, which I just broke. But sage is perennial, if you see right there. We got sage trying to grow right here. And so in the spring, that sage will come back. Beside the sage is one of my peach trees that I've already cut. But as I look at it, this is what caught my eye a few minutes ago, if y'all had noticed. This need to be trimmed a little bit more. But we'll worry about that later. There's a thyme plant down here. It looks pretty bad. Thyme is perennial. And if you look right there, you can see we still have some thyme leaves, and they're kind of all in there. I did not harvest my herbs like I should have this year, which is fine. It's fine, y'all. It's still gonna come back. But I didn't harvest them like I should. When you cut your herbs more, then they grow bigger, but I did not do that. Bigger and bushier. I didn't do that this year, so we'll see what happens. Down here we have more comfrey. Over here is another oregano bush that was pretty much the same situation as the one I just told you about, but this one started coming back up on its own. There was a thyme plant over there. I think that's gone. In the summer, it's very shady for low growing plants over here because you have the trees and you have the very large herbs. Like comfrey gets really big in the summer. I think that thyme succumbed to the shade, and right beside where that thyme was the big old bush of rosemary. So it didn't really stand a chance because the oregano was beside it and the rosemary. Over here is some lavender, y'all. You can see it, but it is struggling to kind of get started because like I said, it's very shaded. And let's not even start talking about what that grapevine looks like in the summer. So it's very shaded over here. Some of these plants, I'm not sure that they're gonna stand a chance because they're lower to the ground. And then there's also wormwood down here. Wormwood is huge and a bully. It is way over there and it is planted somewhere over here. This is an apple tree that has never given me one apple. Same thing right here, apple tree that has never given me one apple. Which is also fine because I am going to start a front yard orchard. I did not get around to that this fall. And I wasn't going to push myself, but I want to start a front yard orchard. Those two trees would go in that front yard orchard. And then I maybe would put some more fig trees out here and maybe some peach trees, more peach trees. Because the peaches do amazingly back here. I just never have gotten an apple off of any of these apple trees. And then all the way down this row, that's the grapevine, huge. And it was so small when I got it. But all the way down is more comfrey. And I did not plant all of that. I did not plant all of that comfrey. That comfrey spread, which is fine. I want this area to be big and bushy. That's what I want over here. It shades the roots of the trees, and so I'm fine with that. But if you do decide to get comfrey, they have different varieties. Some of them spread, some of them do not. Do your research. I don't mind it, but you might. And then there's one last sage bush under this peach tree. And so that is what I call my orchard area. So that's where we have all of the trees, the fruit trees, and then there's a bunch of herbs over here too. So that is the garden in a nutshell. Right there is the opening. The beds are over there. But that's the garden in a nutshell, y'all. That is my whole entire garden. Oh, And of course, my little sitting area, love that. I absolutely think it is important to have an area to come and sit and relax in your garden. I do. You know what? It's not the whole garden. I always forget about the flower bed, but my flower bed is only at this point housing a bunch of snapdragons, but the snapdragons look really good. They're getting bigger and bushier every day. And so I do think that in the spring, and I've said it a million times, I know y'all probably sick of me saying it, we're gonna have a beautiful display of snapdragons over here. So there they are, all of the snapdragons that we planted. That one little echinacea. That's also an echinacea plant. This back here is a canna lily, I believe. It is trying to spread. I keep pulling it though. But I do think it's a beautiful plant. I'm leaving it, but I'm not allowing it to spread. Well, at least I'm trying not to let it spread, but it's definitely a spreader. Those are the rest of the snapdragons right there. This is a celosia at the end. I just chose not to pull, but it's not perennial or anything. It's gonna die. And then that's a sedum. So the sedum is perennial. It will come back. There go friend. Hey y'all. The sedum will come back every year, but it's gonna die back too. All right, so that is the garden. Let's go and see the greenhouse, and then that's gonna end the tour for me today. And I hope that you have enjoyed it. It's taken me a little bit of time to get it done, but I wanted to make sure I show everything in the garden, because people have been asking, like, they want to see the full garden. They want to see it from an aerial shot, but I don't have a drone or anything, so I can't do that. That's why I kept trying to give you some perception, some context to where we were in the garden, so that you could kind of see the layout of my garden. And I did not plan the layout of my garden. Basically, I had the bed that I had, and then I just started adding to it, and that's how my garden ended up to be what it is. If there was a free space, I made a garden bed. All right, so now we are in the larger greenhouse, the tunnel greenhouse, and we have this bed here, which is our largest bed. It is growing broccoli, and our broccoli, as we know, if you are not new, is getting eaten up. But this is broccoli. This is a kohlrabi, and then there's a little bit of Swiss chard down there. Over here in this middle section is some kohlrabi, and these are cabbage. So there's 2 cabbages, and then there's 3 kohlrabi. Back here we have broccoli, so 4 broccoli, 1 kohlrabi, and some Swiss chard. I have been looking at this bed, and the look of it is a little bit lighter than the leaves that I'm seeing outside. So I'm thinking that I probably, it is pretty packed with vegetables. It's pretty packed with vegetables that are heavy feeders. So I feel like I probably need to up my dose. Look at this. Look at this. I need to up the amount of fertilizer that I'm putting in here every week. So I'm probably going to go up to 3/4 for this bed to 2 gallons of water, just because it is jam-packed with very heavy feeders. But it's doing well. So this bed, I haven't edited the video yet, but I actually put garlic in this bed, because y'all always know I say I'm not going to plant something, and I do. But my whole thought on it is that garlic could probably help to loosen the soil. And so that's why I did it. Other thing going on in here is the moringa. I think I'm going to slice this moringa down and then hope that it starts to grow from the bottom a little bit, and then it's not like tall and leggy, because I didn't realize that's how moringa kind of grew, but I know now. The lemongrass is in here now. I cut it down, and we're gonna try to overwinter it. We have the Overwintering Peppers over here that we had already started, and then this is an eggplant, but that's where we're gonna overwinter our things. And then of course the worm bins. And I just did a video on the worm bins. I will link it below, or I will put the little card on the screen in case you are interested. But that's pretty much the garden tour. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to visit me over on Instagram, where I post about the things going on in the garden almost every day. Bye y'all.